It will be 10 a.m. Bong, bong. Good morning, everybody. And for those of you in Queensland, happy May Day. May the 4th be with you. And for those of you who are not, just get back to work. No, don't get back to work. Stay and listen to us. I'm joined this morning by a person that I talk to on a regular basis. I write a lot of stuff for publications, and Lisa Johnson is my go-to psychologist because, and this is why I love her, is she is such a well-rounded human being in the way that she helps her clients come through prickly, sticky, yucky stuff, because she looks at people as people. Like, that's a concept. Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I really think I should start recording the conversations we have before we go live, because they're actually really interesting and fascinating. Yeah.
But and you get me before I get to the shy kind of, okay, I really want to do something useful right now. Make sure that you push and encourage and share something of useful. But conversation is useful, isn't it? And
absolutely,
and that conversation is useful.
Absolutely. And you're just talking to me. We're not worried about anybody else who's listening. So it's just you and I here shooting the breeze. Now, we're oh God, I'm going to use the word. We're in unprecedented times. This is shit that we're not used to dealing with, and people are struggling. Some people aren't. What is it about this time that brings out the best and the worst of us?
Well, you used a complicated word because you're good with journalism and words. You're a wordsmith. But I would use just the word uncertain. And I suppose when we come back to really basic principles, uncertainty is unsettling for all of us. But some people see uncertainty and they go, wow, here's opportunity, here's growth. And you know, we can do so many things during this time, because they run and ride on the seat of their pants. And some people are wired a little bit more that way. But most people see uncertainty and go, oh, my goodness, what have I done previously in uncertainty? And so for a lot of people, they actually track backwards to a time and they go, wow, the last time I was in uncertain times, it was when I was going through schooling and not having help. Or actually that was when my parents were getting divorced and separated. Or that was when I was getting bullied and didn't know what to do with it. So a lot of the time we are a product of our past experience. So we will go back to those uncertain times and go, how did I manage through that? Because our body is very clever. Our body is this learning process. We go through things and they teach us stuff. If they teach us stuff and we work with it really well and positively, sometimes we come out with a nice resource kind of kit and go, hey, do you know what we need in uncertain times? And that we actually need to focus on what we can create certainty in. That is therefore why people are harping on going, create your routine. And now I would say create a valued enhanced in routine, because suddenly people that normally commute to work suddenly don't have to. So maybe they get back an hour and a half in the day, or maybe they actually see their children, or maybe they see their partners that they still have loving relationships with. So sometimes for some people, they're going, wow, this is a value add. Like, I'm loving this time. I'm loving being able to slow down. I'm loving that they've put such restrictions on us, and that instead of some people who are getting really caged in and pissed off and angry about it, some people have gone simplicity, nature, elements, and dropping into that sort of space. So it depends on our blueprint, what we're born with, personality, temperament. It depends on childhood experiences. It depends on education and our experiences around that, and then career and everything else between, and then our current living environment, as to whether we actually go, well, reactivity or acceptance and grace and kindness. And the tide flips and changes as well. And so sometimes there's a sense that in this moment, I'm actually feeling really free and simple and enjoying the basics of living. And then in another moment, I'm feeling that authorities have told me what to do, or that I'm getting mixed messages and I can't deal with that. So there's so much, just like your mind is very complex and is changeable. So are we all, and it really impacts us in different ways.
So there really, I mean, what you're saying is there's really no right or wrong way to do this stuff. If in the moment you're feeling this way, then that's okay. And then 10 minutes down the track, if you're going, oh my God, I can't stand this, I'm going to get a sledgehammer and beat down the wall.
Yeah.
Not another person. Beat down the wall and escape.
It's really important for us to be our own best person in this time, but not to be judgmental to ourselves. So we were saying before off air, you know, some people are really going through having a tantrum about this. And whatever emotion you're feeling at any given moment, I think it's important to give it a little bit of airtime. How we play that emotion out and how long we travel with that does depend, and that can be one that we need to talk about and consider. But really, it's better to feel what you're feeling. Sit in that place. It's kind of like grief. That's why people are talking a lot about grief. We've suddenly been forced into grief and a sense of loss of a lifestyle we had and we once had. If some people were in a decent balance, they're like, I did suddenly start to get this sense of balance within my work, within my family, with delegating things out. And suddenly they've all come back in. All my responsibilities have come back. So it is important to accept whatever those feelings are that we're feeling and sit with them. And then we give ourselves a point of saying, is there an opportunity to do anything any differently? What can I do to be of service and assistance and be a resource to myself? Because the resourceful version of ourselves is the one that is the helper and the healer and the sister and the brother, and gives us an internal kind of hug, which we're allowed to have, guess what? Because we can't hug others, supposedly. So, but the point is that we need to be our own best friend. And sometimes when we use that perspective and we say, just step outside of yourself for a moment, what would you offer to your friend? Or if you had a twin, what would that twin suggest that you do to yourself right now? And it might be the bath, it might be lying in bed, it might be reading the book, it might be some Netflix. It's fine to work with whatever comes up for you at that point and accept it. And then see. Give yourself a choice to feel. It's okay to feel.
Because we kind of got into this rhythm of life. Maybe even it wasn't a rhythm, where it was, particularly in the small business space, or even just life in general, where we're hustling, we're marketing, we're pushing, we're selling. You know, if you're a parent, you're taxiing, you're ferrying, you're scurrying, you know, like it was just such a frenetic pace. I know the world for me was like, oh my God, like I need some seasickness tablets. This is too much. Is this forced pause? Can we come out of this and retain some of that moment of peace that many may have found? And look, and I think it's really important to say we're not diminishing the shit that's hit the fan, that there are people sick, there are people dying, there's people who've lost jobs and businesses, and that it's horrible. But as individuals, many have found a peace and some clarity. Can we come through and retain that?
Yeah, and I mean, there's some lovely points in that. So through pain and sufferance and crisis, we actually, and we say often, we do our best work in the fractures. When we come through sufferance and pain, sometimes at the bottom pit of us, it takes everything off and brings us back to the pure essence and the pure beauty actually in life, which sometimes is about that connection we have with ourselves and that acceptance and self-love. And sometimes it is about those chosen few or members that we connect with. So, yeah, when we strip off all the layers, we get back to bare bones and essential kind of living. And so for some, that painful place will lead to that. For some, I talk about it, we either learn from the pitchfork or the carrot. The carrot is this beautiful thing in front of us that we look at and say, wow, that is so beautiful. I want it so badly. I want it so greatly. And people have had a chance to experience that now, going, wow, this simple living, this just basic stuff, basic cooking, basic walking, basic cuddling and being with each other, because we actually quite like each other. And now we've reset, or now that we've established some healthy parameters, now we've packed in and feel like a team in our home environment. It's not so bad just hanging out. We're not so distracted. We're not so busy and disturbed. Because as you said, there's been so much going on, so much busyness. And it's almost like a luxury to slow down. Now it's not so much a luxury. This is like our goalposts of essential living, safe living, is saying, slow down, stop, just stay safe and stay connected. We're saying social distancing, but really it should be social, connecting really, but just in different ways and means. So, yeah, some people will certainly have learnt some things. And as you're saying, some people will do better at bringing those learnings forward. Some people may stumble and may actually, reunite the busyness and the craziness of what they once had and the excitement that they've lost or have been losing through this time. And some people love being seat of the pants, dynamic, getting pulled left, right, and center. I think you're quite responsive, aren't you? You sort of feel different things and you go, yep, let's do that. But you've still got that centerpiece of, does that align with what I want to be doing? Otherwise, if it doesn't, it needs to drop away. And I think we'll get better at doing that. I think the alignment and that goal set, mindset stuff will be a bit clearer for most people going forward.
Someone that didn't even come out right. A friend commented yesterday. She said, "I've been watching you shed things because I'm quite public with what I think and what I feel, and I guess, and I always have been. I just have Facebook. It's my toilet wall. I've now got the opportunity to do that." But she said, "I've been watching you shed things," and she said, "It'll be interesting watching what you bring back on board and what you will leave behind." And for me, that's been the cathartic process of this time, is that I've been able to go, what has been serving me well as a person? And I guess this is why what you do is so fascinating, because you look at the whole person. It's not just how's Annette showing up at work, but how's Annette showing up in all of these facets of life. And from a psychology point of view, why is it so important that we look at the whole person? That almost seems like a stupid question, but I know that you've got a brilliant answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, you said before, the person that we show up at work. If we look at that person can most value add when they're a unique person. You've got a unique proposition that you put forward. You've got unique contributions that make you special in your own craft, in your own ship rocking forward, compared to somebody who would be like me, who goes, I admire Annette, so how can I learn from? But if I'm not being my authentic version of myself and sitting with my unique skill set, then I'm not really going to have my best line of success. And we deserve to be individuals in the world, because it's the individual contribution that actually adds to the best outcome and the best diversity in the outcome, because we are also different. But coming back to that person that you turn up to in your work, that person is made up of a whole lot of core beliefs. That person is made up of a whole lot of, core concepts about themselves. That person was created a long time ago. Some people would even argue it was before your conception, but certainly from your conception and those early formative years, they really said something, did something for you in your childhood and growth and development. And then those early years of, did you get that positive sense of embrace and attachment? Like mum's growing a young baby at this point in time, it's going to be a very different experience without having the mothers groups that they're going to, and they're sitting in circle with mums, if you choose that way anyway, sitting in circle with mums and talking about snot and the colour of poo and teething. We're not going to be getting that in the same way. Some people will virtually kind of get that through doing their mums groups and supports. But so a child being raised at this point in time, just like a child being raised in the war. When my dad was born, it was bombs were dropping in London as his beautiful mother was trying to embrace this, as you know, vulnerable baby into the world. That changes and shapes that baby's biology. That neurocircuits, the neuropsych of that child is actually change and wiring in every day, in every month, and every year of that child. And then we've got the experience of going to school. I'm not sure what yours was like, Annette, but I know mine was a little bit raw. I had some learning difficulties. So reading and writing and comprehension, my folks didn't realize I had any of those deficits or challenges. My wiring was different for that. So the typical education system was not particularly wonderful for the wiring that I had. But fortunately, I had been embraced in other ways. So that social engagement, social intelligence, I thought all teachers were beautiful and I could relate to them. And so far, I respected my beautiful teachers, and somehow I got through that system. But it wasn't through academics. It was through hard work and grit. We talk about that perseverance, determination, discipline. It's a positive psychology concept. But all those childhood experiences, and then our first sense of, wow, I'm now an adult. Am I an adult who enjoys my, where my education has brought me into a career? What were your previous years like in those early career years? When I've read some of your pieces you've put together, You do speak about what life was like in corporate space. You do speak about the treatment that you received along the way, growing through your career and your profession. And then now what that point of difference is of going, hey, I'm mastering my own rocket ship and I'm going to pick my people. And those people are going to resonate with me. And when I look at them, they're going to be, you know, that idea of we are the sum of the 5 people we hang around with the most. I'm pretty convinced that you would be pretty particular about who those 5 people are that you rub shoulders with.
Oh, yeah, a lot more now. Oh, but I guess that's so I don't even think it's an age thing. I think it's a self-awareness thing, and you can develop that at 18 or 80 or,
Yes.
you know, mine has been in my 40s where I've gone, some of my life choices haven't served me well, or the people I interact with. Let me unpack that and look at what that is. And look, do you think that process of coming to a comfort and confidence of who you are is meant to be a long, laborious thing, or it can be something that can be quite, I don't know where my words are coming from today, can be quite, maybe not swift, but easy and joyous?
Yeah, look, I think it's this just so many individual differences and so many factors. So, for instance, I see some of the most amazingly advanced people in doing that self-discovery and self-awareness when they've come from a trauma background. So some of those people that have been through really, you know, really tricky times earlier on are very resilient and very self-aware. And yet on the flip side of it, some people have been through such situations that they don't even have memories of that place and are non-trusting and are very particular about where they place themselves. Because the most important thing for all of this is a sense of safety. When you feel safety has been met, then you have that sense to feel in a trusted place and then to drop into that vulnerability. If we don't feel, and this is primal need, if we don't feel that safety is met, we don't go into that vulnerability very easily. And so for some people, doing that personal and deep work doesn't come easy, you know, to drop into that. And yet for others, they're intrigued by it and enthralled by it, and they want it, and it just makes so much sense. And it confirms itself along the way. You know, I work with some teenagers and some youth, and they're very self-aware. And in that, they sometimes feel the stigma of mental health has really hurt them in the sense of people judge and this and that. But they also have a sense that, wow, I am glad I'm going through this now and I'm going to have the tools now. And I said, it's wonderful to be able to have the opportunity to do this work now so that you can be more particular about your partners, more particular about where you place yourself in work, more particular about what you do career-wise in education and that learning for life. You know, so there's a really adaptive person who's willing to take things on as they grow. So doing those early year kind of work can be really lovely, but it comes down to your family culture as well as your personality, as well as this, as well as that, you know. And when is ever the right time? The right time is when you're motivated. The right time is, like, I'm working with a lass at the moment, and she's managed to be a very successful, very high achieving, you know, amazing mum, amazing professional woman, but there's been a little part that's been really closed off and locked. And she's like, I'm now actually interested to turn that key and have a look at that, because my son's getting to that age where I need to do more for my life than just have a profession, do more for my life than just have a beautiful son. And I said, you know, this being able to work through these times and these past traumas will actually allow you to no longer be as much of a victim of that past, because sometimes closing that door keeps that pain alive, because something has to work really hard to keep that door closed. It's not something that's free and easy. So unleashing and unlocking, and obviously doing that conscientiously, you know, we want to do that when we feel the person is resourced to do that. She's in a nice place where she's resourced to do that, so now's a good time. If she was going through a relationship breakdown or bullying at work or something else, it may not be the right time, although it might be, because maybe those same things are speaking to those same core beliefs, those same core concepts about herself. So
yeah, that's you meet lots of people. I've met lots of people who go, you know, I don't deal with that. I just put it in a box in my head.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I get, like we pack things up. We were talking about, being minimalist. And, I was saying to you, there's times where I just get in this frenzy and I clean out the house and I pack things up and I get rid of it. And that's good. It's out of mind, out of sight, it's gone. But you were saying with my teacup analogy, like I had my grandmother's teacups, I got rid of them, then I went, oh, I wish I'd kept them, is putting those boxes aside. Sometimes it comes back up and bites you in the butt and reminds you that you either needed it or you didn't need it.
And whose idea was it anyway, Annette? I mean, all these people, and I was sharing with you about my past relationship, being with someone who's more minimalistic, and that's really good for their control. They're good for their structure. They're good for their routine. It's efficient, doesn't attract dust. It's clutter-free. I mean, all of that intuitively makes sense. Intellectually, at a higher level, makes sense. But here I am, sentimental fart. Here I am, everything has a story. You would only have to look around anything in my house and I'd be able to tell you a beautiful story about it. And my suggestion to people is to say, if this was our bedroom and we've got 4 walls, the things within this space should talk to us, should make us smile, should do something of meaning to us. And if our objects around us, actually we look at them and they make us feel sad, they make us feel deprived, depleted, neglected, abused, we need to put them in a little place for a little bit of time perhaps, because that picture of our family that we once had at some point might actually send a smile back into our face of all the beautiful history that we've had together. But at this point in time, if it's a bit too raw, you've got to work out what's in your best interest. If drinking from that beautiful family cup actually took you back to those moments when you're a child that she used to preciously say, you reach this age, now you can sit with this and here's a ceremony around it, then suddenly what a beautiful gift to have that's symbolic of that stage and that graduation from being a toddler to being a little child. I remember having tea parties with my mum. She didn't do a lot of cooking, but what she did do was little tea parties with my teddies and bears. So it was like, oh, celebration together. So if it creates that joy when you have that particular item, it is worth keeping that item. But we still have to minimize, because as we said, otherwise if you have a piece of thing from each holiday, each camping trip, each whatever overseas trip, we got a lot of stuff, a lot of full junk house.
Where's my trailers?
Yeah,
okay,
we could call us a hoarder, So
yeah. And that's moving again. Bring in the army.
Yeah. So, how much stuff do we need, because the real beauty, and this is sometimes when see people taking photos for everything, do we capture it with photos or do we capture it with conversation and connection? Sometimes taking photos so much so it doesn't allow you to be within the photo, within those close connections, within those cuddles, those tickles, those runarounds on the ground. They are the fabric. Getting a scratch on your leg because you're, hustling, bustling and whatever so much, you'll look back at that scratch and go, oh, that's right, I remember that one. That was that childhood wound that I got from that experience. I mean,
I've got one on my knee that I got when I was 4, and I'm almost 50, and I remember crystal clear how I got that scratch on my knee, where it was, the circumstances it happened, and it's like, well, there's a good way to carry memories, just like wear them on you. And I guess that's why people get tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
It's because for me, I can look at that and go, I remember exactly. You might recognize that one, people.
Yeah.
That's the obsessed one. That's how important obsessed with is to me and Hayley and Nat and Lauren and Brittany, because we put it on our body. You said something really interesting there about, that previous partner that you had and they were minimalists, and where she could walk into your house and then go, look at, I know exactly who you are because of all of the stuff here. When it comes to, people going, this is my opinion and that's the only way that things are. And, how do we express our individuality when there's so many people saying this is the way that things are?
Yeah, I mean, we make a choice of what we gravitate to and what we sign ourselves up for as well, don't we? Like I was saying, that's some of the 5 people you hang around with the most. I mean, there was a beautiful saying that someone said to me once, and they said, you're not in love with a person per se. You're in love with the way that person makes you think and feel. And I say more so the way that person helps you to grow. And sometimes that's when the journey's over. And sometimes the journey doesn't even start with certain people because they don't bring out your best person. And we need to be more decisive and clear about that. You know, if that person's not resonating with us and isn't something that's supporting our growth and supporting our understanding and getting to that, then perhaps they're not the right person on this pathway. I'd also argue on the flip side a bit though. So say I go along to a yoga class and there's so many different yoga teachers and a particular style. And I remember when I first had a taste of yoga and I was like, geez, this isn't good for me. I can't smile. I can't giggle. I can't engage. I don't feel comfortable in my body and my back's feeling really kind of unsupported and, you know, pushed back. This isn't the thing for me. And I'm like, well, it may not be the class or the teacher or the level that's ready for me at this point in time. But actually there were some beautiful things that I needed to do that I wasn't practiced in, which was being silent, being still, working through discomfort, working through tension and distress through my back. But I needed someone to nourish and nurture me through that. I needed someone to work with me, and I say like winnable goals. I want you to have a success story. If you decided to embark on me teaching yoga to you, Annette, I want to prove to you that yoga could actually sit and support you. So I don't want to say, you know what, zip it. No, I'm going to give you the gymnastic version of it. I say, I'm going to do some seated yoga with you. Now, I'm just going to get you to move through your body as we do some of the poses, and I want you to feel the difference. I want you to see before and after, and I want you to feel and notice that. And if you can, I've done my work. So I want you to be drawn to somebody who resonates a learning opportunity for you and somebody you feel inspired to be with. Sometimes those people that we feel a bit repulsed with and not drawn to, sometimes it's because they've got something that we don't quite have yet, but we actually need, that sense of quiet and poise and drop. And then sometimes it's just something that doesn't resonate, full stop. And then that's, you know, so often when we feel and we're confronted by someone or a personality type, just check in. What is it about that person? Does it remind us about a past person in the past who we didn't have a lovely experience with? So a past trauma, for instance. Does it speak to something that we don't feel is obtainable at this point, like being quiet and sitting still? Does it support us to work through something that really makes us feel uncomfortable, like opening up? But through that, the catharsis and that release and letting go is such a release. We don't need to be the secret bearers and the holders and hoarders of all things. We as people are well, we're an individual in this world. We are born alone and die alone, so to speak. We hope not, really. It's a connectiveness. It's a communalness. It's a collaboration that makes us a unique person and a learning and growing person. So
beautiful. And I guess what we're ultimately talking about is that pursuit of happiness and meaning in our lives, and all of these things that we've touched on this morning is that journey to reach that point, isn't it? Like the work we do on ourselves, the people we surround ourselves with, you know, our actions through our daily life is we all just want to be happy.
Yeah. And happiness is a funny and interesting construct on its own, and psychologists have a lot to say about happiness. But one thing that I say that's super, super clear amongst most people is the sense of having a sense of meaning in our life. If you feel each day that you've contributed something that's created meaning, something that's been of worth, something that you've been of service, and that might be somebody who is walking in the street and helps somebody along. That might be somebody who has been able to show and teach and support someone in education. That might be someone who is able to just hold space for someone. You know, whatever it is, and it can be in a paid capacity, it can just be in human kindness and community. It can be in a family member, just sitting there with your child and going, wow, in that moment I was able to drop in there and that person felt important and significant. If everyone is able to do something in their own unique way, suddenly their levels of happiness, suddenly their levels of feeling connected with others, suddenly their levels of loneliness are out the window. You know, their sense of feeling content or that I'm adequate. or that I'm accepted, or I belong. Sense of belongingness and meaning in our life is everything. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what I got out of that was it doesn't have to be something monumental and huge. You know, we've had the, you know, The Secret and Simon Sinek saying start with why, and a lot of the time when we talk, you know, I've got to find your why and your purpose. People are looking out. You can't see my hands, but like they're out here, like massive. Instead, it can come back, and it could be something just really close to your heart, like you said, spending time with a child, or making a difference in your community or in your family, or I don't know, just getting up and moving every day.
Yeah. And, you know, I think what the things that we can achieve and that we can activate within ourselves and that we're not reliant on someone for are amazing gifts. And not everyone does that so well. And I'm very much more of a people person. So I tend to try to gravitate towards something that involves a person or a human connection or something that for me feels like a value add. But on the other side, it can be a lacking and a bit of a weakness in that, because ultimately, again, we need to come back to our own self-concept, our own self-belief, and be less reliant on other people, to feel that deep down in my heart, I know I'm okay. Deep down, I have such love and acceptance. Deep down, I feel of value and worth. Now it's about how do I ensure that I can flow that forward. And for me, it's like a ripple effect. You know, the more that I'm able to touch the hearts of or connect with someone or allow them and support them to see value in themselves and support them to form their own unique contribution, they are then activated in the world and they're able to do their thing, and they replicate that as well. So we touch the hearts and the paths of all the people that we walk with and journey with or are inspired by. You know, it's lots of beautiful things that we can enable each other's growth really well just by those connections. We can be enablers.
I love it. Let's be enablers. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom this morning. I always love talking to you. You always give me something to think about and to ponder on and to grow. And I hope that our audience does as well. And please feel free to leave comments once you've watched this back. If you've got any questions for Lisa, pop them in there. We'll be checking them through the day. And thank you. Go back and continue to, I know, maybe you're having a Star Wars marathon today, or you're out enjoying the sunshine, or whatever it is you're doing. Lisa, thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you for your time. And thanks for listening, everyone.